Welcome to another Ask Arlington. I'm Jay Warren. Ask Arlington is a show that is dedicated to answering the questions that you have about what's happening here in our city. And on this episode, we are focusing on West Nile virus and ways that you can prevent mosquito breeding here in Arlington. Each year, targeted ground spraying occurs following the recommendations of the City of Arlington Health Authority, Tarrant County Public Health, as well as the CDC. And here to help us answer your questions is Amy Rockhill Carpenter. She is the city's health services manager. Amy, thanks so much for being here with us again this year.
Thank you, Jay.
I know we're starting the mosquito season, so it's that time to ramp up and really start thinking about how we protect ourselves and our pets and everything else this mosquito season. And before we get too far into this, I thought maybe you would describe the system that you have in place here with the city to really help us prevent mosquitoes from breeding in the first place.
Sure. So the thing that we like to focus on is prevention. We want to make sure that communities are focused on draining areas that might be holding water, reducing those breeding sites, and treating their own yards with BTI, which is, it's not really a pesticide, it's actually a bacteria that you can put out in dunks. It's over the counter, so they can be used in things like French drains, bird baths, and other things that hold water where mosquito breeding could be an issue. We also do set traps throughout the city. We also work with the county to make sure that we are on target for all of our prevention related items for the season.
Right. Last year when we talked about this, you gave that tip about the French drains. You know, we often think, all right, I need to make sure I get this in a bird bath, or in maybe if you have a plate under a pot outside or something. Those were the standing water, we think about those, but the French drain I'd never thought of. And it really is easy to get those little granules from the dunks into your French drain.
Sure.
And makes a big difference.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And people often ask us, is this going to be safe for wildlife or my pets? And it is safe. It's actually, BTI is approved in organic farming even.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's a chemical that's going to be very harsh and dangerous for wildlife, pets, birds, and other animals. It's really targeted to mosquito larvae and certain types of fly larvae.
Okay, well good. Let's get to some of our resident questions. We got some good ones again this year. Our first question comes to us from Tom. Tom asks, I have a man-made stream and koi pond in my backyard. I'm not worried about breeding mosquitoes there, but do worry about spraying around the pond or in the large gully that drains into Lake Arlington behind my yard. Any advice on how to treat this area?
Sure, so I also would not recommend doing any kind of spraying to large bodies of water. The koi pond, as you mentioned, isn't going to be an issue because you have fish in there that are eating the larvae. Similarly, in an area such as Lake Arlington, where they have a very robust wildlife population, you have dragonflies, you have turtles, you have fish, and these actually eat the larvae, so that's not going to be your breeding site area. The tributary areas that might kind of get slowed down to hold standing water, or areas where litter can collect, would be the areas that I would focus on. And as far as treating those areas, things like neighborhood cleanup initiatives where communities get together and clear out the litter that might be blocking or even harboring the mosquitoes themselves. You know, a bottle cap can hold water and mosquitoes can breed in that.
It's amazing how small a little bottle cap full of water.
You know, tree holes.
Yes,
Fill them in, they breed, you know. So I would recommend cleaning out the area and then again using that BTI product if there are small pockets of standing water.
Yeah, very good. Well, our next question actually came from a lot of different restaurants, but we'll take, residents, but we'll take Lisa's. She wrote, why not just spray everywhere?
We have citizens that are on both sides of this issue. Some want us to spray all the time, everywhere, and some want us to never spray. So we follow a very scientific method in our approach. We use the Center for Disease Control's recommended practices, and so that means that we only do targeted ground spraying applications in areas where we have a confirmed mosquito. We don't do nuisance spraying, just general broadcast spraying. We very much target the specific area that has been proven to have mosquitoes that are carrying disease that could make our citizens sick.
Right. So, and you're doing that across the city?
Correct. At the start of this interview, I mentioned that we do trapping, and our traps are set very widely distributed so that all areas of the city have sufficient surveillance.
And usually, if you get any positive traps, you may have one to sometimes 3 or 4, but usually it's not the whole city. It's
Correct.
just targeted areas.
Correct.
Where you'll get a positive result back.
The other thing that we do besides the targeted ground spraying when we get those positives is we come back in with another round of that prevention.
Right.
So we come back in and scrutinize that area to see where the breeding might take place so that we can disrupt that metamorphosis and not have to spray, continually.
Sure, sure. Well, our next question comes to us from Matt. He asks, what kind of product are you using for the spraying?
The product that we use is a synthetic pyrethroid. This is something that is identified by the World Health Organization as a necessary medicine. We do, again, very, very 10 to 15 micron drop size. It's an ultra low volume spraying.
And I know we've had some questions in the past from residents, and we get them on our social media accounts as well, about, well, I saw this truck just driving through Arlington and spraying everywhere, but actually you may see the truck, that doesn't mean it's actually spraying, right?
Exactly. So the spraying is determined again by that positive confirmed trap in the area. And sometimes that one truck may be going from one spray area to another spray area. So just because the truck is driving doesn't mean that it's necessarily spraying. The other thing that's important to note is that the spraying is very closely monitored by GPS. So we know exactly where the spraying occurred, the speed of that vehicle during the spray time, the time that it was sprayed, the day that it was sprayed. All of that information is recorded. And we also do closely follow the weather channel to make sure that the winds are not too high, there isn't any precipitation, because those are things that would interfere with the spraying.
Yeah. All right, so very good. And one thing we should also point out is if you're wondering if your neighborhood's being sprayed, follow us on social media.
Absolutely.
Follow us on our website because we post all that information weekly with a map, and it will tell you what neighborhoods are impacted this week, if any. And so that will tell you, and we have signage that we put up also along those neighborhoods, like electronic signage too. So.
Right. Yes, citizens should expect to see those yard signs in the spray area, and we also do utilize the electronic message boards when they're available to us. But again, absolutely, citizens should follow our social media, check
Facebook
the
and
website, and they can also contact the Action Center or the Health Department if they have specific questions.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you so much for all you guys do during this season. It's a hard one that starts, in March?
Starts in the end of March and it continues through the beginning of November. So it's pretty lengthy mosquito season.
It's almost as long as the NASCAR season.
For sure. We just want to make sure.
Appreciate your hard work on that.
Sure. We want to really push. Remember, wear your bug repellent. Wear that mosquito repellent when you're outside. It doesn't matter if it's March, July, November. We really want people to make sure that when they're out and about doing any outdoor activities that they're protecting themselves.
And that you're also protecting your property with the tips that you gave, which will make a big difference as well.
Yes.
Again, thanks so much. We really do appreciate it. And thank you at home for sending in those great questions. That will do it for this week's Ask Arlington. Tune in next time. We'll answer more of your questions.